Hello, everybody. It's 7:54 p.m. Central Time on the 2nd of January 2024. Got you here on the Earthquake live stream. Going to be talking about a few things that have happened in the United States today, as well as internationally over in Japan again. But major news is broken. Everyone on the East Coast is aware. The East Coast of the United States experienced a small earthquake outbreak of multiple earthquakes over the past few days, culminating with a quake in New York City, which has made the news. So let me go ahead and turn on a display capture so you can see what I see ever so slightly better. We're going to go over and quickly look at see where the quakes were. So it started first with our earthquake up in Quebec a few days ago. Up here, 3.2 to 3.5, striking in southeast Quebec right on our arrows, right next to Vermont and New Hampshire. Then down to the south, we got a new 2.3 that happened yesterday right outside of the D.C., Washington, D.C. area. 2.3 there. That made the news today, this morning. Then, after that, a new earthquake struck over here along the Great Lakes in Ohio, which we're going to go look these up and show you what's at the locations. We already talked about the 3.2 a few days ago in my update from yesterday, but we can go look these up. We'll go look up the earthquake over in New York, and we'll explain why this is all happening. If you're on the East Coast, you're probably wondering, why are you getting 3s up in Quebec and 2s down here again along the Great Lakes down to D.C. and basically a 2 in New York City? Well, you can trace this actually back over to the west. Let me just turn something on here really quick. Let me turn on the North American Craton graphic, and then maybe you'll be able to see this a little bit better. That if you compare the Craton graphic to the earthquakes over the past 2 days, you'll see it goes from the west coast down through Texas, back up to the east coast, following the edge of the North American Craton. We go back through the whole week. Let's get all the numbers out of there so you can just see the representation of the quakes. The bigger quakes are, of course, have bigger rings. You can see there's a 4 and 3s over on the west coast. 3s going all the way across the Midwest and 3s going up to Quebec. And if we turn the magnitudes back on, you'll see they're all about the same size. Quite literally the same size. 3.9 down in Texas, 3.7 to 3.8 to 3.9 up in Kansas, 3.8 to 3.9 in Arkansas, 3.2 to 3.5, a little bit less up in the Northeast, but then connecting between them like a stepping stone of earthquakes, stepping stone path of quakes going up the East Coast. It matches the edge of the North American Craton. Now that you've seen the Craton diagram, let me get that out of there, and we'll go look up the quakes. But it's important to know that the earthquakes flow around the edge of the plate, and we can watch it come from the West Coast to the East Coast in a few days. And we get the same-sized earthquakes breaking out across the plate. Shouldn't be a shock that the areas in between those quakes are going to be filled in with other earthquakes that are about the same size or within a magnitude. So when I look at this, again, I have to remind everybody that we talked about watching for this. We told everybody 7 days ago when I was live in my last update that got shut down while I was live, telling people to watch in the Northeast, up in Quebec, up to Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. And now it's broken. Again, 3.2 up in Quebec, and now these. So let's go just take a quick look and go see what's over along. Where should we start? Should we start in Astoria, New York? Let's go over and pull the coordinates for the New York earthquake. So people in New York, get this. You can watch the earthquakes come your way, and you'll know if it's on your doorstep when you start to see the central United States and southern United States move with significant sized earthquakes. The media is also reporting, by the way, the media is reporting that there were mystery booms and rumbles accompanying these quakes across the region before and after the quake. So it's not like a 1 or a 2.0 earthquake should have a bunch of aftershocks. So that being said, what are the mystery booms and rumbles? Well, I've told my viewers for about at least 8 or 9 years that we need to watch for mystery booms and rumbles on the edge of the North American Craton in the Northeast when the plate starts shifting, when the plate's moving, when we get a seismic wave coming across the North American plate. And that's what's happening right now. It's going on across the world, hence Japan and Iceland. This is the earthquake time of year, if you want to think of it like that. Seismic time of year So right outside of Astoria, look, we're right below this building, whatever this is. Some double building here, right on the edge of the old or a new wave pool / swimming pool / whatever you want to call that there. And I guess that's swimming pool. And we have a whole bunch of public facilities like parks and ballparks and playing diamonds. Looks like we also have some maybe stack and pack housing there. Now, whenever I see stuff like this, I actually want to go and turn it like this. Now, the reason I would want to turn it like this is whenever I see a bunch of X marks the spots on the ground, usually means there's something there. And we're not let down by this. Again, we see this all over the world this way. I won't get into the shape that's here right here, but I'll just tell you, we've seen this elsewhere. Let me show you an example elsewhere where we see this. Take you over to my hometown of St. Louis, Missouri, into downtown St. Louis. We're going to come in here, and you see this X right here? This low-income housing stack and pack apartment project? It is right in the middle of another one of these. Same shape as the one I just showed you in New York. This thing in the middle is the new geospatial agency for the U.S. government. They're digging up the middle of this old star fort that's here from back, God knows how long ago. But you can start to find these where they put the X marks the spots over the spots where there are these ancient structures that used to exist from a very long time ago, a civilization that was here long before the United States ever existed, or the North American Indians, a long time ago. All right, now, so we're back over here. We're right next to that weird shape. Now, you will also notice the street layout also tells us that something's going on there from a long time ago with the bridges. But back to it, we have our earthquake down below the area, right below one of these parks. And, of course, when you see the parks there, you have to go and look at the other parks that are nearby, like Fort Tryon, or the other, if you don't know about Fort Tryon. But we're not getting into that now. Earthquake down below there. Just worthy to note. I wonder if there's anything else here worth mentioning besides this and this. I will also tell you that we tend to see stuff like this and this around ancient Native American mound structures. I'll use St. Louis as another example again. We're going to go back to St. Louis. Right across the river over in St. Louis, over here, is a place called the Cahokia Mounds. See where it says Cahokia Mounds State Historic Site, the biggest mounds in North America built here. They're the pyramid mounds. The ones that didn't get bulldozed, I mean. Well, okay, now I mentioned the shape of those tracks that are there over in New York. Well, here we have Fairmount Park. And on the other side, right over here, instead of a swimming pool, we've got another velodrome-type park. And so on both sides of the mounds, I've noticed all over the world that this has been done, that they put these sporting event arenas and weird parks where they do racing in particular, but you'll notice the shape. So it's just too weird to have it around there, and we get the earthquakes down below both of those as well, not just in Missouri, but now over in New York. I have to point that out. If you think that's a little weird for me to bring up, boy, I got more to tell you, but not now. So let's go down to Rockville, Maryland, which really we should just call this Washington, D.C. That's what all the media called it in their reports today on this rare earthquake that struck outside of the D.C. area this morning. So not just New York, but D.C., and we're on the edge of the craton. The craton's moving because the whole plate's shifting. The whole plate's shifting because we have a seismic wave going across it, coming from across the planet. So zooming in on here, look where we are. We're at the Lakewood Country Club. I say, Jeeves. Or wait, not Jeeves. That's over in the U.K. Wait, what do they call snobs over here in the U.S.? Blaine. I am Blaine. I'm getting the beamer. Okay, anyway. Down below the country club. Now, when I look at this, I also see we have a similar type shape to the other one up in New York. However, this one's smaller. You will notice that we do have a giant quarry next to this. A deep quarry, an open pit mine quarry. Something else you need to keep an eye out for in regards to these ancient structures. You'll find them getting quarried a lot for the geopolymer to get out. Reuse it. Now, backing it out even further in the D.C. area, here's Washington, D.C., right here. So the bounds of Washington, D.C. are like a square or two triangles. And then here, and of course, inside of D.C., you have your layout of the streets, which we won't get into now. So we're just northwest of D.C. We're next to this giant quarry. However, the earthquake's not listed as a quarry blast. It's several kilometers down below. What would you do if I told you that quarries, just like mines, just like drill points in the crust, can lead to surface fissuring and fracturing man-made faults that go down many kilometers even though you don't see them at the surface? So down below. Now, the earthquake striking here below the country club, is there anything else worth mentioning? How about a swimming pool right next to it? How about that? 2 swimming pools, just like the other location in New York, right? What else? I mean, we got the golf. Anything else worth mentioning? That's it. Okay. Now, finally, let's go look up the earthquake up in the Great Lakes, or on the Great Lakes, in Madison, Ohio. We'll pull the coordinates and put them in. One more time, if you're on the East Coast, you could have seen this coming. First of all, if you're a long-time viewer, you already knew to look. But you could have seen this coming if you were just watching the earthquakes down in the Midwest, and you knew that Texas was moving and you knew those areas were moving. You would know to watch next to you next, up in the Northeast. It only happens a few times a year when the plate starts shifting. All right, so here's our earthquake epicenter. And I don't know exactly where it is in here. I guess I need to zoom in and go just scroll down the coast to find it. There's a nuclear power plant that's in here, but we're right next to the coal-fired power plants and coal loading areas. I just want to find the nuke plant, see how close it is. Ah, there it is. Okay, so we're right next to the nuclear power plant with the earthquake. It's literally right across the river. Now, we have some drill points, believe it or not, in between the nuke plant and the earthquake. Right down in here somewhere, I would need to zoom around on these back streets to go find them. Oil wells exist. Well, actually gas wells for extraction of methane. There's methane deposits that are in the plate here, and they get those out pretty much the same way you would do fracking, right along here. And I want to say it's along this road where the drill points are. I'm not going to take too much time to try and find the drill points. We previously did that. Oh, look, an airplane flying through there. I previously did that in other videos. I'm using a new copy of Google Earth, so I don't have all my place marks on here. Otherwise, I should be able to just go down the road and find the drill points. Anyway, it's one road off from the nuke plant. We've got the drill points right through here. Okay, so nuke plant is the thing that we need to talk about. What does the nuke plant have in common with these giant star fort shapes in the plate? Well, both are dealing with very low frequency in the plate. These giant structures that were made by ancient peoples a long time ago clearly harness some kind of very low frequency, ultra low frequency, extremely low frequency in the plates themselves and directed it using those shapes, cymatics. The shapes are dictated by the frequency, basically. Like, that shape may have even come up out of the plate using frequency a long time ago with high technology that we're told didn't exist. But I don't want to get into the high technology conspiracy. I just want to say that there's possibilities there for how the shape actually appears in the plates unnaturally. So what does that have to do with a nuke plant? Well, the nuke plants are pumping energy out, very low frequency, 60 hertz, right? 120 hertz. But very low frequency goes down to ground in the discharge. So any electricity that goes to ground is going down into the plate down below that nuke plant. Now, in the nuke plant are, of course, the nuclear materials, which themselves have their own form of electron cascade or small plasma that forms on the surface, a air glow or a glow that happens. Now, that's usually suppressed, and you usually don't see it unless you actually touch it, but that air glow that happens is discharge plasma, just like the North and South Southern Lights, North Pole and South Pole Southern Lights and Northern Lights. But it's a small version, it's a man-made version, and it goes to ground. That energy goes to ground as well. So we've got energy going to ground in the area around the power plants, and it's not just nuclear. It's coal fire, it's natural gas, it's even geothermal. We see when there's a great amount of energy being produced, electricity, we tend to see earthquakes around the area where it's being distributed out, and even following the transmission lines, the big power lines, not the kind that go to your house, but the big transmission lines carrying a lot of high voltage. Okay, so that being said, back to it. 3 sets of quakes across the Northeast. You shouldn't be too shocked by it that these two are the same size. They struck within a day of each other, not even. Same day, same 24-hour time period. Right next to the nuke plant off the Great Lakes and down here in Washington, D.C. area below the golf course. Questionable about the shape on the golf course, right? Shaped just like the thing up there in New York. And they're all shaped like the star fort shape that I showed you over here in Missouri. Crazy. Star forts. If you don't know about them, I don't know what to tell you. Let's go over and talk about the West Pacific. Speaking of triangular shapes and star forts, how about the past 24 hours worth of earthquakes reported from the professionals? This is everything 0.0 and greater I'm showing you. And now, they don't show you really anything 4 point something and greater from the USGS, but still, you see it makes like a giant triangular shape here, going from up in Japan, all the way down to Indonesia, back all the way over into Papua New Guinea. So literally, if you were to play a game of connect the dots, you could go from up here to down here to back here, and it would make a big triangle shape. Now, connecting in between them are plate boundaries. Let's go over to the USGS plate boundary map, show you what's moving over in Japan and what we're expecting over the next few days, if you didn't catch my forecast. So these are the current quakes from the USGS. Look at the spacing on this. Right? Somewhat equidistantly spaced, as the wave, I would think of it like this. Points between each earthquake are the distance between the wave peaks. So that tells you how far apart the waves are, and that tells you how big the wave is or how long it is, and that therefore very low, ultra low frequency, thousands of miles apart. If this is our key down here, 1,000 miles, we're like 1,500 miles apart between spacing, here to here and here to here. About the same. And then we take a step down from here to here in Indonesia and from here to here in the Philippines. But it's about the same, step down, ratio-wise. Then we spread back out, going up to Japan. Now, I would look for this to spread out up to Myanmar and over to India and up to Japan, up to the north. Now, I have two forecasts which I've issued, which are going to stand for the next 6 days. One is for 2 different earthquakes to strike in Japan. North Japan, right where Hokkaido meets into the North Island, and South Japan, right where Kyushu meets into the main island of Japan. 2 different earthquakes over the next 7 days, and both should be in the 6 point something range, 6.5, about a magnitude less than what struck in Japan proper with our big 7.5. I'm expecting this to spread and break to the north and to the south with 2 different quakes. Additionally, I'm looking for one single larger earthquake to pretty much strike the halfway point between these 2 sets of quakes that are currently here now, going across Myanmar all the way over to Pakistan, North India. Now, if we were to just draw a straight line between these 2 quakes, that would put us into the central Himalayan range in China. But if we go around the bends of the plate, let's go take a look. Check it out. So if we go around the bend of the plate, that actually puts us down into India as the halfway point. Let's zoom in and show you. There. Now, notice, the USGS doesn't have the Myanmar quake from yesterday on their feed anymore. It's over 24 hours old. You check the USGS page, you're woefully ignorant on the quakes. No offense. It's like the quake feed for normies to check. If you want to really check, you got to know multiple sources and use multiple outlets to get your info. Anyway, so between here, and no offense to the normies. Okay, halfway point between these 2 brings us right in here if we go around the bends of the plate. Think of these like bookends or 2 arms on a scale, and the balance point between them is here. But really, think of these like 2 waves, or 2 parts of a wave coming up here over at Myanmar, and a wave coming up there right at Pakistan's border, and then the new wave is going to come up at the halfway point between the 2 previous, like a standing wave. So the wave spreads and then reflects back into itself, and the halfway point is automatically sorted out between the 2 previous points that broke, and that's the new spot to break with the new large quake. Same goes for up to the north. That's why I'm looking for 6.5s on either side of the 7.5, that it's not that much loss of energy to go up to the north and down to the south. This whole thing up to the north and down to the south should break the plate boundary. Okay? And it should be about a magnitude less than the original break of the 7.5 as it spreads out, the breaking, I mean. Hope I'm wrong. Hope I'm wrong, it doesn't happen at all. But right now you can see it's already spread down to the south, all the way across, and back over into Indonesia. Let's go back over to the USGS map. What has spread? The wave. The wave has spread down, across, over, and around. See it? Or see the spacing? The spacing says a wave has gone around here, and it's dropped off the quakes along the way. This is the force that causes earthquakes, what I'm talking about. The wave, if you will. The very low frequency wave spreading from point to point and dropping off the quakes along the way as it spreads. So earthquakes are not random. They are related to one another in that there is a greater force that's causing them. And that greater force spreads across whole plates, following the plate boundaries. People didn't know this. Actually, people even said I was faking the earthquakes to make it look like There was a spread like this. By the way, you can go download your own copy of Earthquake 3D or any other earthquake program that keeps track of earthquakes to see this. Okay. All you need to do is look for 48 hours worth of quakes. Speaking of spacing, look to see the spacing on a very low frequency wave. You're probably going to have to go about a planet away or to the moon's distance, right? So look at it. If you imagine this as a wave going across the plates, we get the same sized earthquakes, 4.6, 4.8, 4.5, going across all of Asia in a day, and it's reaching over to here. There's only one spot missing for this to be perfectly evenly distributed across from here over to here. And that's yesterday's quakes. Or the day before. There we go. Let's get this 3 out of there. There. See? Now it's a perfect stepping stone path. All I have to do is show you the previous day's worth of earthquakes to make it a perfect stepping stone path of the same size quakes going from China across all the way over into North Africa. So you can see the path, right? Look at the path. It's going around, over, around, over, and around. Do you see it? I swear it's there. No, really, look. You don't have to actually see it. It's there. There's a equidistantly spaced path of earthquakes going across the area where the plate boundaries are. What does that mean? It means there's something going across there. And that something is dropping off the quakes. All about the same size? 4.6, 4.6, 4.8. By the way, if you take these and add them together, it equals this. So 4.6, 4.6, then a 4.8. Then a 4.5. And if you add the 4.6, 4.6, 4.8, 4.5, you get a 5.0. Then the 5 spreads out 2 ways. One up to the north, 4.6 to the north, and 4.6 to 4.7 to the south. It redivides. So it's like a flowing river. But we're not losing much, are we? If we're going from 5s and 4.6s to 5s and 4.6s, that's basically no loss of energy across the area. The wave is huge, and it's powerful, and it goes across the whole planet, back around, comes back out with new deep quakes. Is that a lot to take in? Let me sum it up simply. There's a giant wave that comes up from down below the plates, from the core, vibrating up like a bass speaker. It vibrates out and away and tries to equalize by going around the planet. It follows these red lines like a river would follow a riverbed. The wave follows a path of least resistance. Once it gets absorbed into a plate, which it does, it gets absorbed off these red lines, the wave will go around the plate. Hence my North American craton diagram, telling you which way to watch for this to flow. The wave, I mean. So what does it prove? Well, if you know where something's coming from, and you know where it's going to relatively, and you know the time it relatively takes for it to go from point A to point B, you can then plot a forecast for it. And if you can see the earthquakes popped off along the way, all the same size, you know what size wave it is to begin with, power-wise, magnitude-wise. Taking those two things into account, you could do forecasting, and that throws a huge wrench in everybody previously who said it couldn't be done. That takes me back to the start of this. If you want to do your own earthquake forecasting, I have published the method for you to copy and repeat and test over and over again if you'd like. Anyway, let's get back to the point of telling you about all of these earthquakes, whether they're small or whether they're larger or whether they're huge. That the point of knowing about the quakes is so that you can be prepared. So if you see a big seismic disturbance taking place overseas, but then you realize you're connected from there over, up, and around to the United States, or over across into Asia and Europe, you see how it's connected. If this was a big flood and you lived along these rivers, you would pay attention to which way the flood was going. So now that you know that, over here in the United States, getting back to the North American craton diagram, let's turn that thing back on. If you live in the Northeast, you now know to watch Texas in the Midwest. And if you're in the Texas Midwest area, you now know to watch the West Coast. And if you're on the West Coast, you know to watch to the Northwest. You see? Now that you know where to watch from and you know what to watch for, you can watch for seismic to come your way. It's no coincidence that we got 4.0 level activity down here in California, and then within the same time period, we're getting 3.0 level activity on the East Coast. This has happened several 100 times since I've been doing this, and several million times in the history of the world, or more. The point is that this is a natural process and a flow. It's nothing to be scared of. It's actually good to know. It's like the weather. You can now know, or you know which way the weather normally comes from, right? 9 times out of 10, it's coming from such and such direction. And depending on what time of year it is, it can change. The same thing can go for the earthquakes. The flow comes in from the same direction pretty much all the time. And then a few times a year, we get the tilt of the earth, and we start to see an increase in activity and a slight shift in the way things move. Anyway, new science being discovered, as everybody said it couldn't be done. That's the way it goes with new science, by the way. You find something that... If you ever discover anything big, kids, let me tell you what. You either got to sell out or keep going. And if you sell out, it goes away. They buy it from you, bury it, and that's it. Nobody ever admits they're wrong. That's the thing to remember, too. But I think that's just human nature. We're not here to lecture you on human nature, are we? Duchess, you got anything to add? She said no. You can't hear her. She whispered it over there in the corner. She's over there. Okay. Much love, everybody. I'll be back. We're watching for 2 significant earthquakes still in Japan, and we're watching for a big earthquake over in India. I hope I'm wrong. If anything changes, I will be back on at a moment's notice to let you know. All right. Peace out. Word up. I don't think there's anything else for me to add. Enjoy the mall view while you still can. What's that? Duchess says, much love and Happy New Year. You know what? Hold on. Come on over here. Get right up into the microphone and AMSR. How do you say that? Asmer. Put on your Brooke Shields sexy here.
Don't do that to me.
Sexy time. Sexy time, baby. Come on.
What were they going to say?
Oh. Much love.
Much love, everyone.
Yeah, there you go.
And Happy New Year.
Oh, wow. She got right in there. She came in for the swoop in. Much love, everybody, and Happy New Year.